Welcome to Olivia's Kitchen. I hope you enjoy Kate Moore with her cookery show today. And action.
I'm going to show you how to make a really nice Mediterranean scone bread. The difference between bread and a scone is bread has yeast as a raising agent and scones are really quick and easy to do. So Mediterranean, because of the ingredients I'm using, I've got Parmesan cheese, some goat's cheese, sun-dried tomatoes, but there are loads of variations you can do on this recipe. So first of all, I've got 3 spring onions, which I've just sliced, and I've got a clove of garlic, which I'm just going to slice, but you can crush it, chop it however you like. And I've got a pan that's heating up on the hob, to which I am going to add a knob of butter and some olive oil. Now I add butter and olive oil together because butter on its own can burn. So if you add a bit of olive oil, you still get the lovely buttery flavour but without it burning. So I'm just going to put the butter in the pan first of all. And then a tablespoon of olive oil or rapeseed oil. And I'm just letting that melt. So to the pan, I'm going to add my 4 spring onions and my clove of garlic that I've finely chopped. Now we're not trying to let these colour, we're just trying to soften them in the pan. Now the melted butter is going to, although it looks quite a lot, it's the fat that we're adding to the scone recipe. So we'll just leave that for a minute. I'm going to turn the heat down slightly because I don't want it to burn or brown even. I just want it to soften. Okay, so we'll leave that for just a couple of minutes. In my bowl here, I've got 175 grams of self-raising flour. I've got cheese. It's 150 grams of cheddar or feta cheese, or a mix of both. I've got 150 grams of cheddar mixed with some goat's cheese, because that's what I have in the fridge. And 50 grams of Parmesan cheese, the fresh stuff, please. And I've got some sun-dried tomatoes. For this recipe you need 100 grams. You can use olives, sun-dried tomatoes, a mix of both. I want my daughter to eat this bread, and my husband actually, so I haven't put olives in it, but I'm going to serve it with olives on the side for me because I love olives. And these sun-dried tomatoes are in a lovely oil, which is great to use in cooking. So this is nearly all the ingredients. So to my 175 grams of flour, I will add my roughly chopped sun-dried tomatoes, and these are so lovely because they're really chewy and they've just got loads and loads of flavour. I wouldn't substitute them with fresh tomatoes because they'll be too wet. If you've only got 100 grams, or 50 grams of tomatoes, don't worry. Okay, so into my 175 grams of flour go my sun-dried tomatoes with the oil that's stuck to them, and adding that into there. Okay, I'm going to add nearly all of my cheese, but I'm just going to hold back a little bit of the Parmesan. So in goes the cheddar, in goes the goat's cheese, and nearly all of the Parmesan. I'm going to keep a bit to sprinkle on the top. I need a pinch of salt, and I always use rock salt, so a sprinkle of that. And some cayenne pepper. Now, cayenne pepper is the hot one, so a generous pinch is really enough. But it actually brings out the flavours of the cheese. So ingredients like mustard and cheese, pepper and cheese, all it does is make the cheesy taste a bit stronger. So there's a generous pinch in there. My hands are wet, so I'm just putting it in the lid. And an egg, which it says a large egg. This is a Whopper. It came from my chicken this morning, so it's going to do the trick. So I break my egg into there, like so. And my spring onion mixture I'm just going to turn off now. I've just noticed my egg is a double yolker, which is a bonus when you get your own chickens. You get a large egg, you get 2 yolks, but it shouldn't affect the recipe. If the recipe is too wet, you can add more flour. So I'm going to mix up just give my eggs a little whisk, mixing in with my flour, my cheese, my sun-dried tomatoes. I've done this recipe before where you add a generous spoonful of pesto, and that works as well. So I suppose what I'm making is a fancy cheese scone, because these are the ingredients for making just the classic cheese scone. And if I added a little bit of sugar and some raisins, you get the idea. But this is a nice Mediterranean scone. So I've mixed it all together. Now ideally you should let your spring onion and garlic mixture cool down a bit, but that's the reason why you let it cool down, is because you don't want it to cook the egg. But because I've mixed it all up now, and I want to show you how quick this recipe is, I'm going to add it now. So in there, plenty of the melted butter and the tablespoon of oil and the lovely garlic and 3 or 4, I said 4 spring onions on the internet recipe, but these were huge actually, the ones in the supermarket, so I've only used 3. Okay, so we'll just tip this in. It smells lovely. You just think this is bread, but it's a meal in itself, a big wedge of that on a picnic. You're not really going to need much else with it. Okay, so I'm using a fork because I don't want to get too dirty, but you do need to get your hands in a moment. That's all the ingredients. Now if it's too wet, you add a bit more flour, but you just want it to come together into a ball. And you don't overhandle scones at all. So just before I put this on the tray, I've got a baking tray that will just fit the scone on it. And with some of the oil that's sitting on my chopping board, I'm just going to rub it over the bottom, which is basically greasing my tray. Waste not, want not. My scone mixture here. Just tip it out. And what we're trying to do is shape it into a rustic loaf. So a bit of a squeeze so it doesn't fall apart. So you need to make sure, although I'm being gentle, I'm squeezing it all together so it doesn't just break to make a dough. And then we put it on the board, press it down. It can be any shape you like. But the thickness you want it to be, I reckon that's 2 centimetres thick. So there we go. That's what it looks like. And I'm just going to use a little bit more oil that was sitting on the board here to rub over the top. In fact, I'm going to use a bit more. You could use a pastry brush, but my hands are nice and clean. So a bit of that lovely tomato infused olive oil on top. A pinch of my salt, which is optional, but this is what gives these sort of recipes the edge, this sort of extra care and attention and love. And the Parmesan cheese, which will melt. Do you know, I've done this bread a few times and it really is very impressive for very little effort. That's it, that's all you need to do. With a sprinkle of cheese, quick wash of my hands, and it's going to go in a preheated oven, 180 degrees. And I'm saying 20 minutes, but we'll have a look. I might have to amend that when I've taken it out of the oven, but I'm pretty sure it's 180 degrees for 20 minutes. So we'll put it in and have a look and see what you think. Okay, so it's been in, I said 20 minutes, and it was 20 minutes. Just turn my oven off. It smells absolutely gorgeous, and it looks really, really nice. It looks like a loaf of bread, so, you know, if you think you can knock this up in 5 minutes and put it on the table, especially if you've got friends coming round for a glass of wine, I reckon this is the perfect bread to serve in the evening, like instead of nibbles, instead of crisps or something. And if you serve it hot, even better. But I'm just going to transfer it to a cool rack because that is super hot. So let me just get my fish slice. Now I didn't put olives in this recipe because my husband and my daughter don't like olives, but I've got olives on the side because I love olives. Oh gosh, that's hot. What I'll do is I'm going to leave that for just 5 minutes, because if I try and cut it now, it's just going to fall apart because it's so hot. So just leave it for 5 or 10 minutes at room temperature. If you were going to use it for a dinner party, for drinks, and you wanted it to stay nice and warm, all you have to do is put a tea towel over it and leave it and it'll stay warmer just that little bit longer. And what's really lovely, if you want to just come here and have a look, on the top where I crushed up the little bit of salt, it looks really pretty. I love that. I'm really pleased with it.
Can you do it with my head in?
Your head's in.